is some of the things I'd like to see come up is, one, we rezone part of the industrial park. That we don't live in industrial age any longer. Why are we promoting an industrial park? That we should be changing it to a commercial, at least part of it. We live in a service age. We don't live in industrial age. In that light, I'd like to also see us look forward to the future and that we have an aging populace. I mean, most of us here are over 50, I'm guessing, and well, I said most of us.
She makes us all look good.
And that's not going to change, you know. And we have a medical problem, we have an EMS problem, and we have some of these issues that are going on, and we have one of the most beautiful places in the country with resources and water and hiking and biking and mountains and snow and hot springs, and that I think we should start to focus more towards that medical as our industry. I'm not opposed to having some niche manufacturing of especially wood, because we obviously need to control these forests a little better than we do. But again, those are free enterprise systems, but I think we can do some things to start this process, to start creating an urgent care facility, building an assisted living facility. The state talked to us about the possibility of having a 16-bed mental health facility here. Well, that's a lot of jobs that are family wage jobs. The healthcare is not going to change. I'm on the bottom side of the baby boom, and I'm just getting ready to turn 56. So hopefully I got quite a few more years, but that one data that I was reading was like 20%, or no, by 2050, 50% of our population is going to be 65 or older. We need to do something about that. Again, thinking ahead of the curve instead of behind it. That's what I think we should do.
Okay. Ernie?
Well, we tried that one time, about getting a living facility.
Assisted living? The reason that that's ran into problems, and I guess I can address that, and maybe some other people here when they were doing that, Rob, for instance, is we did have a committee, and they were making great headway. They identified funding, they identified a place. What they didn't identify was the fact that the state says you can't build one here because we've got enough already. And that's what stopped it. And I don't know if we can't revisit that, because I think we can.
They said we have enough what?
They control the number of beds in assisted living hospitals and all that stuff. And so the committee, rather than standing up and say, hey, go pound sand, what they should have done, in this town, if you don't take the bull by the gonads, you don't get anywhere. You just got to keep banging away at it. And so that's what happened with the urgent care.
Yeah, we worked on it for a long time.
Yeah.
That was, they did suspend funding on all assisted living facilities for about the last 6-7 years, and they're just now starting to revisit that.
But the thing is, a lot of these private assisted living places, you go drive through down Main Street in Springfield, there's several multi-million-dollar facilities that have been built in the last few years. I know, like Jim said, we're aging just like the rest of the country. I know I've got neighbors who have moved to Eugene to live in those facilities, and it almost killed them to leave their house. They would love to be able to stay here in the area they've been in,
Well, I think that was one of the things that the council also identified should be in the strategic
It was
plan.
part of it.
And if somehow the school district could market that as an assisted living, or,
That I
it could
don't
be
know.
a combination thing.
Yeah.
It would help the school district as well,
Well, I think at
The
this
stronger our
point,
schools are, the more attractive that is.
We had, I forget the guy's name was head of that. We tried that for about 2 years. It was in Fossil.
It was Beamer over here.
We almost had the thing, you almost had it going, What I got out of that was, if you've got relatives that, like I have now, be here, rather than travel to Eugene or hospital, it makes so much nicer, and eventually you'll probably get quite a few people in here. The state's come in and said, remember right.
If you have a private, like you're saying, comes in here, they do most of the funding and everything. It's a for-profit thing for them.
Right.
But the problem is it ties into so many other things that we've already talked about. You gotta have a medical facility or some kind of medical care. You have to have support for that facility, which means that we throw all those things together, because if you throw one of those in, you throw three of them in or something like that. You don't do it as one at a time, you do the whole package together. Jim?
Well, I think I heard when we had the meeting with the state senator, Hannah and Korzansky, that I think our politicians are, especially in light of the fact that we have the loss of the forest money, that they're looking at ways to help fix the problems. And so, being that this has been an issue, I think if we submitted this with a cohesive plan, a strategic plan of how to do this, that I think we're going to have the support at this point to do this because, and if nothing else, to push that. Look, you've taken away this, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do?
Right.
You know, give us some options here. You know, don't throw us a bone. You know, just give us some options, and we'll proceed with a course of action. But I think we can sell that point.
All right, anything else?
No, they didn't even try to work with us at that time. You know, we were trying to do that.
Well, that was then, this is now.
Yeah, that's not what it's, you know, I mean.
You can't get discouraged because something happened in the past. What we gotta do is,
No, I'm all for it, I really am.
I'm glad you, it means I think we're all on the same page on that one. Christine?
Just want me to tell some of the things that I'm thinking of? Okay.
Might as well.
Well, I would love to see a community center. I think a lot of the problems that we're seeing, that we don't have communication, we don't have a place for people to find out about volunteer opportunities. You see all these other communities that have these places to meet and also do fun things, you know, have dances and potlucks or what have you. I wish we had something like that. I've seen 4 major things come out of tonight, which is job creation, beautification, infrastructure, water, roads, rail, and medical care. And I think we can do a lot on 3 of those. The job creation is the one that I think is the hardest because it's the #1 priority for all of us. And all we can really do is foster an environment that welcomes business. We can't, you know, if we want to see a mill here, great. I'm from a logging family, I'd love to see a mill here. I don't know anyone who wants to open a mill in Oak Ridge. If I did, I would welcome them with open arms. So as far as beautification goes, I think we have seen some progress by the city with the sort of carrot and the stick with junk amnesty. We have volunteers, our volunteer police going around and saying, you know, I can write you a $500 ticket for this. Or you could just get it all out there on junk amnesty, which is April, blah, blah, blah.
Which is what they did.
Yes, I think that's what we could do in other regards. We could say, hey, your building is not up to code on the highway. It has to be painted, it has to be shrubs. We have 10 volunteers, we can get the stuff for free from Jerry's, and we'll come down and help you do it. Or we can give you a $500 fine. I think you go about it in a way that says, we want to help you, we want to partner with you, and we'll do some work too to make this better, but you have to do some work too. Medical care is something that I'm really interested in, and I think it's like Jerry was saying, it's all linked. If we're going to see an increase in people needing care here, that's going to be major changes for our fire and EMS, because they're not in a place where they can pick up any additional stress at this point. So that's going to have to be a linked conversation. Another thing that I wanted to bring with our strategic planner is really looking into fire district formation and what that would do, and if that would be a benefit to us. And maybe even expanding our net and seeing if Lowell, Dexter, Pleasant Hill might want to get in on that. A lot of small departments are interested in having a district rather than maybe being taken up by a larger place like Eugene or Springfield, because they get a little more autonomy. I think that's it. I think that covers sort of mine.
If I can add, can I jump in here for a second?
Absolutely.
Another thing you might think of is, because medical is a priority, is a medical district as well. It would cover West Fur, North Morrow County is a good example of that, Boardman, Irrigan, and we just finished a $3.2 million expansion of the Columbia River Community Health Center, which was grant funded, and they do have a decent facility now, and that is an attraction for North Morrow County. So, but they did it through district, a medical district. So it comes back, you got to pay for it somehow. So that's one of the ways.
So who would run something like that? Would that be like state run?
It would be the district. It would be it's probably a separate board, just like the fire district. would be
It's a
separate.
special, it's a special district. It's a special taxing district. Jim and then Carl.
One of the things I see, to speak to Mr. Cooey and Christine, one of the things I think the city can do that I don't see that it does is the city doesn't make any phone calls to industries.
How do you know?
What'd you get with Landmark? What was your feedback from Walmart? What was your feedback from?
I didn't have any because I don't do the phone calling, he does.
Is it secretly done?
But that's what
I did contact the company recently.
Notice how well I shut that off.
So, that's what the city can do,
Yeah.
and while I don't know that, you don't tell me that either. You don't get that out to us. I don't know what you're doing. Now, I come out of the computer electronics industry, nothing more cutthroat than that. Your products die almost as soon as you get them on the market shelf. And we're forever making calls and sales. And in sales, you're only as good as not even last month's numbers. So you have to get out there and find new business. And I think this is where the city falls down, where it could really shine, as to.
My
You guys
suggestion
make phone
is,
calls to separate industries and get going, or ask for some help, or get people in there who are willing to make those calls.
Well, then-
now you hit on what I'm talking about.
Somebody that has the wrong.
Somebody is not always the city. If somebody has a concern about something, they should work with the city and come in and say, hey, just like the railroad folks are doing, hey, we think we need a railroad stop here. They formed a committee and they're moving ahead on it. Your idea is a good idea. You gotta talk to each other. And if nobody comes in to find out what the city's doing, they're always gonna assume they're not doing anything. And that seems to be kind of a prevailing thing everywhere, and anywhere you look at government. But I like your idea of calling around and marketing.
I mean, I'm more than happy to do that, I just can't do that with just me by myself.
did you get his
I gotta
name
use
down?
the city behind me.
Why do you have to ask? Why can't you guys just tell us what you're doing? I mean, why can't you tell us you've been?
Some of it, there's probably
Well,
confidentiality.
how would you like us to do that?
Well, town hall meeting for one thing.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because we already made in January a pledge that we would do a quarterly, one every 3 months. And we're behind the power curve a little because some of the other things we've done here. We should expect to see another one sometime in the summer, another one in the fall. That's the only, and I like these, personally, as you know, I like town hall meetings. I like the give and take with people, and we get a lot of information, ideas that come out of the crowd that I've actually stolen from someone.
Crowd we got here.
But, yeah, I mean,
The roar of the crowd.
you gotta communicate, not like we're doing tonight.
Gary
This
has.
is communication.
I'm not criticizing at all. What I'm doing is playing devil's advocate a little bit, because sometimes we don't know what it is you're thinking about either. We being, I don't see a we, they, frankly. I see an us, but that's just me. Gary?
Well, I went on the city's website tonight or this afternoon to check on this meeting, where it was and what time it was. And what an improvement. And whoever's responsible for that,
No, it's
you
not.
guys did a great job. And if anyone hasn't looked at the city's website lately, it's fantastic. Loaded with information, never had it before. Thank you. Now,
City reporter, Sal Later.
yeah, great job. Seems to me like we're all operating in silos, and we're not communicating with one another. And I'll give you an example. I've heard a lot of talk about medical facility. Well, Jerry and I were at a Kiwanis Club meeting this morning, and two young men who are business students at the U of O explained a project that they are embarking on to bring a mobile medical van to Oak Ridge. What do you know about that? It's a pilot project. They won a competition for entrepreneurship from the U of O, and they're working on this project along with Lori Patty, who's the pharmacist. And I don't know, I couldn't get them to tell me what their timeline was, but how many of us know, or what's a good mechanism to communicate this information to the rest of our community? Because we're all concerned about medical facilities, and here is something concrete that's being done that nobody knows about. Well, the Kiwanis Club knows about it now, and Lori Patty knows about it now, and I know about it, and Linda knows about it.
And anybody who comes to a council meeting is gonna know about it, because I've invited them to come to council meeting.
And I'm going to send it to the paper.
Well, I can tell you, along with our website, something that I've been working on is the website upgrade. And what it will do is create, hopefully, a core of people who will be responsible for the website. And one of the things that's going to be the first thing that I will do is have an updated city-wide calendar. So that whenever someone brings a meeting to the attention of the council, to any of the, sort of the groups that are in the know, that will immediately be put on the citywide community calendar. All these meetings are open to anyone. We just need to know about them. Right there. If you are curious about what's happening this month, you look at the calendar, you've got it all.
An electronic community center.
Yes,
There
it's
you
better
go.
than
I like that.
nothing. I still want a real one, but I like that.
Something,
I'll steal that one.
something that might help in that, to the people who don't have internet, and there are some out there. Maybe
Go to the library.
a community reader board like the school has, located, say, by Ray's or somewhere central where everybody drives by it. The fire department's got one, but you're driving too fast. You don't pick it all up.
We can lower the speed limit.
Well, we could do that.
I think that'd be a good idea too.
We were talking about economic development, and I had this idea that we should take some of this surplus money that we have left over from the secret millionaire and create a contract position for an economic development director that would help push and sell Oak Ridge. They can work with the chamber, they can work with the ODAC and help push, but it seems to me that's kind of putting the cart before the horse a little bit until we get some of this stuff in writing and down and focused. Then we could start the process of creating that position maybe in August or September to where we hire them for a year. It's going to cost some money, but at least it has someone out there that's selling the community. ODAC has done a tremendous job, and you can't imagine the amount of work these people have put into trying to create something, but they are volunteers, the head of which is 82 years old. So there's and to answer your question or your comment, Mr. Baker, is that there are a lot of people that call in or contact the city about job creation or the industrial park because it's on a statewide board or communication. But they send in their request. It's a generic request. We don't know who they are. This is our criteria for relocating to your community. More times than not, we do not fit the criteria. Either we don't have natural gas, we don't have enough electrical supply, we don't have enough water supply or fire suppression to be able to meet their standards. Proximity to a college was one we had a couple weeks ago. We're 40 miles from the closest college. So it's all these things that come into play that just throw us out of the pool.
You don't know who they are anyway.
Right. And then some of the people that are in contact, it has to be very confidential until there's an agreement signed because they don't want competitors to know. They don't want anything to be known about their business. So we have to keep it very silent and quiet until there's an agreement.
So we have a town hall meeting, and you stand up and say, well, we had 47 contacts last month, and they didn't work out because one guy needed college, one guy needed more natural gas, and another guy. We're not giving away any state secrets by saying that.
Right.
But then we as a community can say,
if
well,
they
gee,
come in-
maybe we need to get a college up here, or maybe we need to get some, in other words, the community would know what you guys are doing and what's happening, and we as a community could maybe help.
But we've been talking about that, I know, since I've been on the council, about these things as far as what's going on with the industrial park and things like that, because people are asking the questions.
I
And,
mean, we don't know there's anybody calling about the industrial park until you guys tell us.
and
Well, I'll tell you what, do you remember that outfit named Atherton? Remember how the community got all ramped up about all the wonderful jobs they were gonna bring in? We wanna be pretty sure that these people are serious before we start letting it out to the community. We thought we were gonna have the fish thing. We're not sure we are now because of the economic issues back on the East Coast, which would have been a great thing for the community. That's why we don't put out a lot of stuff. Proprietary information is information that they do come in, they are serious. Atherton was serious. You didn't hear anything about that because it was proprietary information. And you can't, it's an agreement you actually sign, and if you violate the agreement, then you got legal issues. So, well, if I may, I would like to address a few things, and then we can call this a day unless everybody's got something else. Are you still taking pictures? Hi, Mom. Some of the things we're talking about in the industrial park, and there's a meeting coming up, help me out on this, Rudy. 30th, on a biomass proposal
At Oak Ridge Elementary School.
at the Oak Ridge Elementary School. This is something that I felt strongly about for a while, because it seemed to me like we're in the middle of a place that's got a lot of biomass. And now it looks like, and we have a facility that actually burns pellets. How long it's gonna stay open, I don't know, but that's how they that's how they heat the school down there at the elementary school. So that'll be coming up on the 30th, and I would invite everybody to go have their input into that, because I think that does have some merit. Forest Service will be there, and I don't know, who else?
Well, we are talking to a third party who's an actual who has built biomass plants, but he won't be here, so we did ask him to give us some specific questions that we could ask the Forest Service.
Mhm.
John's working real hard on that right now.
Yeah. So that's coming up. I met today, Louis and I met today with Nancy Pierce, aide to Peter DeFazio. I was back in Washington, D.C. in February. Had the opportunity to talk to him, and it was on another matter, but I slid Oak Ridge in anyway, and mentioned the medical thing, and that's why she was here, because she wanted to know what's going on in Oak Ridge, and, well, Peter DeFazio wants to know what's going on in Oak Ridge. So we told him what we saw as our highest priority: medical, right at the top of the list; highway safety. We mentioned for those of you that aren't aware of the group of people that are working on the railroad station to get a railroad stop, Amtrak stop here. They've been working on it for how long now?
Probably 6 months.
Year and a half.
Oh.
And it's looking positive. Union Pacific, Amtrak's on board with it. They have to get through Union Pacific now. Union Pacific's asked for an aerial photo of the old station site. There's probably not many of us here that know where that old station site was. Kind of dates me a little bit, but I remember where it was. And I used to go down and play there. But, so that's coming along. The highway safety thing, we're meeting on the 30th with ODOT. It seemed to me like we had a lot of planning went into the highway enhancement program, they called it a few years back. For various reasons, business opposition and various other reasons, it never happened. It got shelved. And ODOT just basically lost interest in the whole thing. They were on board and then they got off board. I think they're coming back on board again. The problem with ODOT is their funding, their programs are out 2 years in advance. So things they're working on now is for 15. One of the things we are asking is, well, even if we don't do an enhancement, is there some possibility of getting crosswalks, safety crosswalks, whatever it takes to get people across the highway without getting flattened out? And they're looking at that. So we'll be meeting with them on the 30th to discuss that further. I would still like to see the highway that you're talking about, the beautification plan, come up and look at the old enhancement plan. That was a beautification plan. It was a little bit bizarre in some ways because they squished down traffic to 3 lanes and a few things, but they had trees planted along the highway, curbs, sidewalks, the whole Mary Ann. And the thing that basically ran foul of the businesses was the access management part of it. They couldn't, there's some businesses, if you'll notice, are practically sitting on the highway. Well, that's because they built the businesses in the right-of-way and didn't know they were in the right-of-way when it was a two-lane road, two-lane highway. And Rob, you probably remember, some of us still remember when it was a two-lane highway.
I was a crossing guard down there when I was a kid.
It's all your fault. But that's what kind of stopped. My point is, that's not a good reason to stop a project. You figure out better ways of doing the access management and work with the businesses on doing that, rather than say we're not going to do it. So we're going to try and resurrect parts of that if we can, and we would like to have input on that also. And you're free to come to the meeting if you want. I guess it's not a closed meeting, is it? No, it's open meeting. All of our meetings are open meetings. The abandoned buildings thing that came up, I think we have 6 abandoned buildings right now that we're working on. Some of them are old burned buildings that have been sitting there for a long time. They've got asbestos, so we have to go through the asbestos program. We've got 6 of those, I think, right now that we're working
I
on.
believe either half or all of them have been inspected. I know at least
Okay.
3.
So I'm in agreement with whoever brought that up. Part of the highway is not necessarily abandoned buildings like the old wood carver guy down there. That could be really built into something pretty nice, but the guy that owns it lives in La Pine, and I don't know if we're going to make contact with him and say, hey, either clean this thing up or tear it down or do something with it. Because it's not an abandoned building, but it's not been used since he bought it. So it sort of is an abandoned building, I guess, depending on how you interpret it. And one of the problems we're having in the industrial park, it's easy to say we should put business in there. We're finding that our infrastructure won't support much business out there. We don't have enough water, and we don't have enough power. And so right now, working on the canal issue has brought forth, we need more water in the industrial park to support industry, if we're going to do it. So that's something that the council is looking at now is how are we going to do that? How are we going to fund it? There's several options on the table. Looking at your water rights, we've got an idea on the water rights is put a dry hydrant down on the old bridge that goes on the Hall Road across Salt Creek. That keeps our water rights. And the dry hydrant is one that's just a pipe you stick in the ground and you put a fire department connection on the top, and if you need to fill a tender out of it, you pull up to it and fill it out of that pipe. That's a use of the water. So we're trying to do it that way rather than the other way. And we don't know yet if any of these things will work, but those are what's on the table right now. So with that, is there anything else anybody would like to talk about? I got all night. Yes?
Well, one of the things, and it ties into what Mr. Baker said, is, yes, our newsletter is a good thing that we have. It's something that I do want to get back to, but I think we spoke to you earlier. I've been busting my butt on these budgets, and I think I'm hoping that we get through these, and I do want to revive the newsletter in the water bills and on the website. So that is something we do want to work back towards. So yes, you're right. And that is a place where we can put a lot of the stuff that you mentioned. So that's on me. I just been focusing on other things and primarily trying to get us financially moving forward again. So, but my goal is to get you some communication so that you know what's going on.
Along those lines, with that, you may have gathered that Christine's taken it upon herself to take on the website situation and improve it, and she's working to get a website, whatever. I'll show my ignorance.
Upgrade.
Okay, and a website upgrade. Did you have your hand up?
Nope.
No. Anybody else got anything?
I'd just bring up a couple of things. Eric Staley recently bought the old bed and breakfast over in Westford. And if any of you guys have been by there lately,